Okay. Hi everyone. Thank you for joining us today for the CFA Society covering ESG investing and the certificate. This is a collaboration with the CFA Society of the Miami office and also South Florida. So thank you for joining us. We have some great speakers here with us today. By background, this certificate originally was started in UK with a lot of interest, and obviously given the interest in the environment and social investing, this has been an area that's expanded not only from the interests of the investing community, but also the regulators as well. So with that, just a couple of things. We're going to have a fireside chat that's going to be moderated by Lloyd Mesita, who heads up the Miami chapter of the CFA Society. We have some great speakers that he'll introduce, Michael and Monique. So with that, I will turn it over to Lloyd to start us out with the fireside chat.
Yeah, perfect timing. I just about got in here. Thanks for the intro, Cameron. Definitely
Sure.
Appreciate you partnering with us on this event. Glad to get this moving forward. We're definitely excited to get this going. This has actually been a long time coming for both societies here, and this is a big initiative on the Institute's part. So we're definitely ready to go ahead and kick things off. And first and foremost, we're thankful for our two panelists as well, which I'll go ahead and introduce shortly, for taking the time to share their experience with us. We'll get a little bit of Q&A going. I'll have a fireside chat as well. Any questions that come to mind as far as the program goes, feel free to definitely ask them through the Q&A panel there, and then we'll be able to field any questions that you all have. But really the goal here is to get a sense of their experience with the program itself, what they've encountered, the pros and cons, the challenges that they've had, if any at all, and really just to give you their insight as to the value add from the program. So first, I'll go ahead and introduce Michael Kosak. Michael is from our Philadelphia Society, if I have that correct.
Mm-hmm.
All right, perfect. And also, I'm going to go ahead and introduce Monique as well. Monique is from our Cayman Island Society, so definitely from a place even more exotic here than South Florida. So definitely glad to have these two on board. Thanks again for taking the time to join us. And I'll just go ahead and kick it off as far as, Michael, if you want to lead off, just give us your experience as a whole. First of all, what motivated you to enter the program, and what were some of the challenges that you faced as you went through it, and just give us a sense of the process.
Yeah, no, thank you very much, and I'm glad to be here. It probably helps to just kind of take a look at my background and my look on or take on the evolution of the investment management or consulting type industry. And kind of where the sustainable investing fits in that. So if I look back, where I kind of started was that we had a institutional consulting firm, which we focused on public pension funds. So we were one of the first firms. There were 13 firms, including NEPC, RB Coons, Wirtz, that gave up our licenses, and we formed a cooperative to share data. So I looked at that was the kind of the first stage where we're at the forefront of just recognizing that being an advisor, a fee-only advisor, is beneficial, and differentiated ourselves in that way. What we then did from there is that we became one of the first OCIO firms, and so that I'd look at the kind of the second piece. And at that point, what we did was we sold our firm to PFM, And so I was a partner at PFM for about 5 years and ran around, including Florida, different parts of Florida with clients. What I did once leaving PFM is I formed a company, a consulting company, ImpactWise. And what we do is we consult with the money management and advisory community. And also I do research with a group up in New York, the Sustainable Research and Analysis Group. So that's my background. And I look at the sustainable investing space as kind of the third leg of what I see as the industry evolving.
Okay, perfect. Monique, well, would you care to share your path as well, and how also you've incorporated ESG into your practice as well?
Absolutely, and good evening to everyone. So I actually started my career in information technology, but then I quickly pivoted to a career in the investment management industry, starting sort of as an investment advisor and then moving on to more progressively senior roles with exposure to many different segments of the industry. So brokerage, managing fixed income, equity, for discretionary portfolios for private and institutional clients, and now leading an asset management department for one of the key markets for a publicly traded regional bank. Now, in my current role, the way ESG comes up is mostly in conversations with some clients that have some segment of ESG incorporated in their investment policy statement. And then separate from investment management, if I just look at our own institution and other institutions around us, there's greater focus on ESG related initiatives at a corporate level. So I will leave it at that for now, depending on what other questions will come up.
Sorry, Lloyd, I think you're on mute.
Thanks, Liz. So just really wanted to drive deeper into the motive as far as tackling this head on. Again, this is fairly new to everyone, both ESG in general and also specifically this certificate. So what was the prime driving factor that said, you know what, I got through my charter, now let me tackle this as well?
Yeah, I would say, and this kind of the evolution of this, and to give you a little bit of idea what's going on in Philadelphia, I'd started a few years back a sustainable investing thought leadership group. So what we do is it's basically to educate the members of the society, and also we do monthly programming. So every month we have outside speakers and get together either in person or virtually to talk about the industry, about the space. So it's about sharing. When I look at that group, what I see is I see younger people, that are there, that are looking to make career decisions, that are trying to figure out the space and believing that they want to match their values with their job. So they're motivated, to do so. And there's 4 groups right now within the United States and Canada, and they would be DC has a small group, and then New York, Boston, and Montreal are the other groups. So this is a movement, and I think that why you want to get involved with this is that your clients are going to talk to you about this, or they're not. So if they don't feel that you're open to conversation, they're not going to talk to you. But as we talk about the transfer of wealth, as that occurs, what you'll see is this younger generation does want to talk about it. And if they don't feel comfortable in front of you, they're going to find an advisor that they are comfortable with. So what you need is the background. You need something to make you stand out from others.
Yeah, perfect. And perfect point on the transfer of wealth as well. Again, I consider myself more the latter millennial but still in that category. So that's a very, very common topic of conversation. And again, I have my own views on it, but one can try and dismiss someone, but you have to be open to conversation. Completely agree there, and definitely have the know-how. What about you, Monique?
So for me, I mean, I'll be honest with you, right? I've pursued and obtained quite a few qualifications throughout my career. And so at this stage of my career, I wasn't necessarily looking to pursue yet another qualification, given my responsibilities at the moment. But despite those thoughts running through my head, I naturally have a passion for learning. And I was always intrigued by the importance ESG would play in the world. And although the demand for ESG investment strategies is not the same everywhere, and there's still some skeptics out there, but shareholders, investors, the next generation, they are all pushing for this. So I don't see the focus on ESG waning. I can only see it evolving. And that was really what motivated me.
Okay. This is more of a why question as far as trying to get in the minds of the common ESG investor, which is typically in my generation or younger. What do you think is going on in their minds as far as, okay, you have traditional finance and now you have ESG coming into play that's really inspiring them to have this thinking come to the forefront as far as, yeah, I really value the ESG environment and I honestly want to invest in the space versus ESG just being a common term that they're hearing from their peers. And as a result, they're kind of feeding off their peers. What's your take on that? Open either one.
Yeah, I do look at it a couple different ways. So if I look at it and if you look at it from the institutional side and you said, what are some of the requirements that you're seeing? There are requirements in RFPs right now that are asking about your knowledge in this area. So I think it is important that you have that on an individual level. I see firms like yours, like UBS, and they have over 200 impact managers on their platform. So for you to look at that and not acknowledge and lop off a portion of your portfolio of the offerings isn't fair, to your clients. So the firms are in it, whether you could say, there's greenwashing going on or whatever, but they're in. The clients want to talk about it, whether they're going to act, whether they're not. So you as an advisor have two choices. The one is you can kind of kick the can down the road and say, okay, well, if it comes up, just let them know, I'll look at it, and with no intention of doing anything. Or for you to build at least a portion of your practice around this segment, saying there's really no experts in the area that I see. So I've been in it a while, but what I see is I see people with knowledge, but it's you could blame it on the SEC, you could blame it on other entities, but there isn't this common knowledge, acceptable knowledge. So if you can carve out a space for yourself as somebody that's knowledgeable, I think it opens the door to new business opportunities.
Okay, excellent. I'll jump and shift gears to the actual certificate and the exam and the prep itself and try to hone in a little bit more on that. What was that like for you, Monique?
So if I compare it, if I make an assumption that some of the individuals on this call are probably CFA charter holders or maybe candidates, but if you've obtained the charter, and I need to compare this to that, if you were able to do the CFA, the intensity level of this is not comparable. So, this is the main differences I would say is obviously if you're someone that enjoyed, and I say this, I know not a lot of people enjoy a lot of numbers or statistics. I happen to be one that actually enjoys them, but this is very different, right? That this is not calculation. So it is a lot more about memorization and understanding. So from a candidate experience going into that, that's one thing to think about. And then in terms of how you deal with that, that's very much dependent on your learning style. Because for me, for example, I started a long time before I had to take the exam. I decided, okay, I was reading one chapter. A month later, or even longer, I'm getting to chapter number 2. By then, I've already forgotten what I read in chapter number 1. So, because it's not calculations, it's nothing like that. So, I had to reattempt this then closer to when I was going to sit the exam, and try to cram it in a shorter time period, so that you didn't forget what you read in the prior chapters. So that's the best way for me to explain it and trying to compare it to the CFA exam.
Yeah, completely understood. It's more qualitative than
Yeah, if I were to add to that, I would say
quantitative, and it's more know-how, conceptual, just remembering things as well. Go ahead, Mike.
No, I was going to just say that I think Monique is right on with her comments. And if I learned about the program through some investment professionals in London, so this is where this all started, the program itself before the CFA Institute took over, but with their backing, that became my interest in taking the certificate. And but if I'm already in the space, but I wasn't familiar with all the origins of the sustainable investing movement. And there's a heavy emphasis on this, on connecting the dots of how this all started. And so since the movement started in Europe, there's a lot of entities and names that most people haven't heard of before. And so there is memorization, there is this new terms, new ideas. It's not about numbers, it's about concepts that are there, and to get a broader understanding of how this all fits together.
Lloyd, just to add, in terms of the certificate, what it did for me is confirm that there isn't a universal way, right, to implement, benchmark, or evaluate sort of an ESG portfolio or product. But it provided you with insight to various strategies, policies, valuation tools that exist. And so you feel much better prepared to either evaluate or understand the various ESG products out there. And then you're also better prepared to explain to investors or your clients what to take into account, right? As they're trying to navigate something that is extremely broad and sometimes ambiguous. Mm-hmm. But I think it's comforting to get confirmation that in terms of what you may have thought, that it's not necessarily easy to pursue sort of a well-rounded, complete ESG strategy. It's not always possible, right? And one of the things, just by way of example, as you may try to, let's say, dramatically improve the E in a specific country or a region, there may actually be something that at the same time deteriorates the S, right? So it's looking at the connections and how it all intertwines. And I think it brings that to the forefront, which makes it a very well-balanced program, I would say.
No, I would agree. And I would also say, if you don't use it, it's you could take the exam, but you have to apply as well. And how do you do that? You have to be around people that are doing things. So this is why the Sustainable Investing Thought Leadership Group that we have is helpful. So you could either contact me, and I'll get you invited to some of our meetings, or what you could do is that you could form your own group, which I can help you do. But the thing is that even if you decide that, okay, this this exam is for me. In my opinion, it's self-study, and it's lonely study, and it's boring study. And what I would do in hindsight is that I would find 1 or 2 or 3 people and form a study group and go through the 9 chapters with them. And I think it'll become more meaningful. But you're also sharing ideas, as you go through. The other thing that I would do is to supplement the CFA Institute's material. I would purchase a mock exam. Something like Reddit, I think is helpful, to just kind of test the points.
Okay. Perfect. And that actually led into my follow-up question, which I'll get to in a little bit. But before I do that, Liz, how am I on time? Am I still good for one more, or sure
Yeah,
we need to
go
move
for
on?
one
Okay.
more, and I can shorten my section.
Okay, no
worries.
problem. This should be, it might kind of answer it to an extent. So someone like myself, right, got the charter back in 2018, and I actually had one more designation after that, the CPWA. So I'm kind of all designation out at this stage of the game. But pushing me over the edge, right? I mean, what's kind of the recommendation for someone that's looking to complete this program? Like, what's one recommendation that you would have for them to kind of give them that nudge to move forward with it? Either one.
Go ahead, Monique.
So there's a few questions I think to consider, right? So one, if your clients are asking about ESG, you should consider it. If your intention is to stay within the investment management industry for quite some time, so you're not, retiring next year or in 2 years' time, you should consider it. And then if your employer itself is focusing on ESG initiatives, whether it's an investment firm or not, it would make sense to understand the world of ESG investing much better. So just those 3 cases alone, I think, is reason for considering it. I don't know if Mike wants to add some other ones.
I think that's great. I think it's about your own, the way you evolve as a professional. And I think it's about differentiating yourself from other advisors. So I don't think you can fake this. So either you believe it or you don't. So if you don't, and you're not interested in it, then don't do it. But if you do, then you have to learn, and then you have to also make the determination whether the firm that you're with is of the same mindset as you are. I was thinking, I just typed this out, that one way, Lloyd, to evaluate or to get more knowledge is to look at organizations like USCIF or GIN, or the CFA Institute has some great material. So what I did was I just put that in the chat, the links to those. And if you just, tap into those, you can just get an idea to say, is this something that interests me? Should I be there or not? And the reality too is that you're an educator once you learn the material. So it's not as if clients or others are just going to roll over and say, "Oh my God, I've been waiting for you forever." It is something that you're going to have to explain to them that this is what's happening. And I love that Monique has a financial risk designation, which she had brought up earlier, because a lot of this is about risk. It's on the risk side of things. And what does this mean to an investment portfolio if you ignore or embrace it?
Perfect. All points make perfect sense. And again, this is an evolving field. And if the more you're equipped with it, the more you can either educate people on it or ask questions about it in a more educated manner to learn more and probe more as this field moves forward. So definitely appreciate the time, Monique and Michael. So thank you both for this. And with that should wrap up the fireside chat. I'm going to go ahead and turn over to you, Liz, for your overview presentation of the certificate in ESG.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Lloyd and CFA Society South Florida and Miami for inviting me to participate in this. And thank you, Monique and Mike, for your great overview of your careers and why ESG is of interest to you. So I want to provide an overview of the CFA Institute Certificate in ESG Investing, which is a brand new comprehensive foundational course for anyone working in the investment management industry who wants to build their understanding of the ESG in their investment process. Again, my name is Liz DeFreitas. I am a Society Relations Manager with CFA Institute, and I'll use the next 10-15 minutes to go over more information, a little bit more about the program with you. For those of you who aren't familiar with CFA Institute, we are a global not-for-profit organization. We are the world's largest association of investment professionals with a vast global network of members, societies, and relationships with key financial organizations. Just on today's call, we have 3 phenomenal societies represented. Our mission is to lead the investment profession globally by promoting the highest standards of ethics, education, and professional excellence for the ultimate benefit of society. So the ESG program offers candidates both practical application and technical knowledge in the field of ESG investing. In our most recent Investors Trust Survey, 100% of the institutional investors interviewed and 77% of the retail investors interviewed had interest in ESG. So this solidified why we wanted to focus on a new program, and we felt like it was very important for us to develop a global program under our brand to bring more information on this topic. As Mike mentioned, this was actually originally created by CFA Society UK in 2019, and it was originally developed by practitioners for practitioners. So here's an overview of who the program was really designed for. So originally it really was designed for practitioners working in the investment industry role who wanted to learn more about how to analyze and also integrate material ESG factors into their day-to-day roles. But we found that it's also suitable for anyone looking to improve their understanding of ESG issues while working in fields like sales and distribution, wealth management, product development, consulting, and risk. In fact, 60% of the registrations have either been from investment or client-facing professionals, and the split is around 50-50. So this slide provides a very broad overview of how to earn the certificate with some updated stats as well. I believe Mike said it and Monique referenced it as well. This is a self-study program. The recommended study time is anywhere from 100 to 130 hours, but it may be closer to 80 hours if you are a charter holder. That's what we've heard. There are no formal entry requirements, but it is recommended that you have some investment management knowledge or background to understand the basics. The exam itself is 2 hours and 20 minutes with 100 questions that are multiple choice or item sets. The exam is administered in person at test centers, or it can also be administered online with online proctoring. The program price is $675 USD, and this includes the study materials and exam registration. The study materials include the digital curriculum, some sample questions, and a mock exam. You can also purchase a hard copy of the curriculum on Amazon, which can also be purchased if you decide just to read the curriculum and not take the exam. Successful candidates will earn a certificate. I definitely want to emphasize that. You will earn a certificate. It is not a designation. And we have over 17,000 registrations since the program launched in 2019. So this program is becoming recognized as the leading ESG certificate for investment professionals, again, with 17,000 individuals registering to date. And we also have endorsements from leading employers listed on this slide, with a lot more. So within organization, it helps to raise the understanding of why, what, and how ESG across different teams and job functions creates common language and culture around investment practices. This also enables a more effective knowledge, sharing, product evolution, and responses to clients' questions and demands. So here you can see how firms are adopting the program. Some are approving it for training, some are actually mandating it for specific job functions, some are creating an ESG community, which sounds like something Mike would have liked to participate in, and then some are actually referencing the number of certificate holders at their organizations where they're speaking to clients. Now let's briefly talk about the curriculum. So as referenced that we do have 9 chapters. And as you can see, the content goes beyond just theory. It touches on the ESG factors because that is essential. But the heaviest weighted sections are on the analysis, valuation, and integration. So successful candidates will learn and demonstrate that they know how to weigh the factors and integrate them into a portfolio, and also know how to allocate the factors into the model, rebalancing and managing risk. So the curriculum is intended to provide a solid framework of ESG knowledge, which allows you to synthesize and add additional information from the abundance of ESG webinars, articles, and research, which we're now exposed to on a daily basis. And thank you for Mike for bringing attention to some of those as well. So lastly, if you like to take action, I would encourage you to reference this slide or go to CFA Institute's website, where you can learn more about the program. You can sign up for additional information, or you can even register for the exam. So with that, I want to thank you for your time and attention, and I'm going to turn it over to Cameron to allow the audience to ask some questions.
Great. Thank you, Liz, and the fireside chat was great. Just Liz, just to follow up on what you covered, 2 questions. In terms of the certificate, when you actually go through the program, how does that work logistically? So you pass the test. Does that then do you have the designation? So that's question number 1. And then is there a certain requirements for maintaining the ESG certificate?
Sure. So there is a difference between a certificate and a designation. This program is a certificate. So once you sit for the exam and pass the exam, which currently the passing rate is 80%, you do earn a certificate. And there are no requirements to maintain your certificate. You will be, of course, encouraged. There's lots of evolving information around ESG. So you'll be encouraged to seek out that information, but there's nothing required to maintain your certificate status. So it is not a designation like the CFA designation or CIPM. It is a certificate.
Great. And then I just had a question for Michael or Monique in terms of your experience and working in this space and some of the interactions you all have had. Are you seeing where are you seeing most of the interest? Are you seeing it on the institutional side of the business, or are you seeing more interest from certain retail investors?
And I could start. What I wanted to do is back up one step though. When Liz was talking about the cost, the $675, I did look at other programs with some universities, whether that was around me, University of Pennsylvania, Villanova. They looked at there's programs at Stanford and so on, and the cost of those programs are thousands of dollars to achieve. And I'm not saying they're not worth it, but they're not focused on investment like this is. So that I just wanted to bring that up. But where I see this right now is that there's 2 phases, or there's two discussions. One of which is on the institutional side, people are talking about this, but are they implementing? And the answer is that they're not implementing the way that you would think that they would be. So there's big blocks of institutional dollars. So if you look at CalPERS, CalSTRS, folks like that. But if you're looking at others, you kind of drift into the endowment foundation space, where then you get into the conversation about mission aligned. So MRI, PRI, program related investing, where you're saying, can we do this, align our portfolio like we do our grant making? Where I see more implementation is on the family office side, where people can take action, and it's led by the members. And again, when you're shifting generations, you have younger people making the decision. We want to align our assets, with our values.
And
That's
Cameron, if
great.
I can jump in, we're seeing that as well. So as we talk to institutions, they want certain teams to have 100% completion on it so they can go out to clients, if they're institutions or private investors, to say 100% of our team has this certificate and has this knowledge. And so that, through that, they're offering some sort of, educational support through it. But also when you compare it to other ESG programs, it's a smaller time